Thank you for joining us for a special episode of LA County Close-Up. I'm Naiba Reynoso. A 100-year journey to justice, highlighting Los Angeles County's groundbreaking effort to right historic wrongs by returning the beachfront property wrongfully seized from Black owners a century ago. This is a look behind the scenes showing the tenacity and ingenuity of the county team working without a playbook to accomplish what had never been done before.
My father didn't talk much about Bruce's Beach until I came to visit him when I was about 17 years old. At that point, he went way out of his way to talk about how they had a resort and that it was for Black people. And he said that it was really important for us to try to find a way to getting our property back.
And unfortunately, he couldn't say, you're actually, own this property. That was because of the events that took place to rid our family and other families of their property from that time.
May 1912. Miss Willa Bruce purchased Lot 8 of Block 5 for $1,225. A few weeks later, she announced that Bruce Beachfront was open for business, where guests would find a small portable cottage with a stand that sold soda pop and lunches.
Most of the people that had property down there didn't live down there year-round. They only came down for weekend excursions. And it was so successful, even from the first day that it opened, the white folks decided they were going to sabotage the Black people's enjoyment of the beach. They said they didn't want Black people down there because it was going to impact their property values.
In the years that followed, the Bruces upgraded from their portable stand to a 2-story brick building. And in 1920, Willa purchased a second lot. With a station on the Pacific Electric Balloon route, Bruce's Beach had become a popular destination for Black Angelenos.
Bruce's Beach is in the limelight, and quite a few enjoy the day at this pleasure place.
It was a phenomenal event that was talked about, and it was extremely exciting thing to have a place where Black people could go without being harassed to the beach. So it was very important.
You have Black folk around the country who are just trying to do well. They're coming off of plantations, they're trying to thrive. And then you have a lot of governments that are putting policies in place and laws in place to exploit, to control the destinies of Black folk.
If you think about where we were, so we're a half a generation out of slavery, and here you have a Black woman, entrepreneur, running a successful hospitality business on one of the most beautiful beaches in California. People were threatened by that.
For much of the 1920s, a campaign of harassment, both subtle and overt, was waged against the city's Black population. Ultimately, the city's leadership used eminent domain to repossess the Bruces' property.
They lost their property because the city of Manhattan Beach used a legal method to, in my opinion, commit a crime. They didn't want the money. They wanted to keep it. And so they fought it in court, and of course they lost.
One of the local leaders said that they thought that the Negro problem was going to stop our progress. We had to acquire these 2 blocks to solve the problem. So we voted to condemn them and make a city park here.
The insult is that for decades, nothing was done with the property. So it was very clear to the public, particularly to the African American community, that it wasn't about seizing the property through eminent domain for public good. It was about seizing the property to arrest the success Charles and Willa were having.
Decades passed. Eventually, a park was built. Over time, ownership of lots 8 and 9 went to the County of Los Angeles, and the city of Manhattan Beach became one of the most desirable places to live in the South Bay. At the top of what was once just another sand dune is a plaque. How it got there and what it says is testament to the issue of race in America and how we are confronting the past. In 2006, when Mitch Ward was serving as the mayor of Manhattan Beach, this area had been called Parque Culiacan for over 30 years. The plaque made vague references to tragic circumstances that reflected the views of a different time, and it needed a rewrite.
We have an opportunity here to take something in our history that was important and negative and embrace it and turn it into something positive. And I hope that the council will take the action to rename Parque Culiacan to Bruce's Beach Park. Thank you.
So I would keep Bruce's Beach out of our community. It's a nice use of alliteration, but it doesn't fit. Thank you very much.
A new plaque was installed in the newly renamed park, but the reckoning, the acknowledgement that some had hoped for, would have to wait.
I know that the wording is inadequate by today's standards. Without the name Bruce's Beach, I think it would have been more difficult for us to get the land turned back to the heirs without people knowing that the area even existed.
My family was invited to the unveiling of the plaque, and my father gave a speech and he told the audience about how when he went to talk to his friends in school, he told them that our family owned a beach, and his friends laughed at him.
They didn't believe African Americans owned beaches.
After the ceremony, my father said, this unveiling of this plaque is just the first step. And he said, we are going to get our land back. And I was skeptical, but I believe that in his heart, he knew that this was going to happen. And it was the most inspiring thing he's ever said to me.
But it wasn't until 2020, when protesters took to the streets demanding justice for Black Americans, that the idea of reparations for the Bruce family gained traction.
Tragically, the George Floyd incident catapulted the world into action.
We as a country were having this great awakening, and I was one of those that finally woke up.
And this was our opportunity to create a sense of equity, not equality, but to invest in people and communities that have been left behind. And Charles and Willa and their heirs were left behind.
I think this country has been struggling with what does reparations look like? What is restitution? We were very much ready to have an example of how we right a wrong.
It is very easy to say equity, and it's actually very popular these days. It is quite different and far more difficult to do equity.
At the time I represented Manhattan Beach, and my field deputy there began saying, something's going on in the city about Bruce's Beach. And when I looked at this map for the first time, I said, you mean those two pieces of property where our LA County lifeguard facilities is located is where Willa and Charles Bruce had their lodge and their resort? And the answer was yes.
At the downtown LA office of the Sidley Austin law firm, George Fatheree saw an opportunity as well, one that would lead to over 1,000 hours of pro bono services.
So unlike most of my client engagements where a client will reach out and contact me, in this case, I reached out to the client. I told the client, I feel like I've been preparing my entire personal and professional life to be of service to your family in this matter.
His counterpart in the Office of County Counsel was used to dealing with complex real estate issues, but this transaction was unique.
When you suddenly come to own a very, very valuable piece of beachfront property, there are a lot of unintended consequences that were going to need to be dealt with in order to transfer this property in a way that was beneficial to the family and not a burden to the family.
After decades of indifference and inaction, the stage was set.
I knew one day it would happen. I didn't think it was going to be in my lifetime, I have to admit. Until Supervisor Hahn came along and said, no, I'm going to get this done right away. And I said, and Anthony said the same thing. Okay, all right. I said, Anthony, no, that's not what's going to happen here.
I was like, we could be slow about this. She said, no, I want to get it done now, and we want to get it done as quickly as possible.
Within about 2-3 months, we were rolling.
And when I realized this story of Bruce's Beach landed back in the lap of me and LA County, I knew I had to do something.
It is an acknowledgement that it was wrong, and we're going to use our political power and public will to correct that course of action.
I am from the generation that Charles and Willa Bruce prayed for, and we're going to stay here until the job is done.
We can show what reparation looks like. It's going to be the catalyst, and it's going to be the spark, I hope, for the rest of the nation to follow.
Just days before lawmakers laid out their plan to return the property to the Bruce family, the Manhattan Beach City Council found itself once again confronting the past. On the agenda, whether or not to issue a formal apology.
An apology atones for past injustices that have been well documented so that we can move forward.
We can acknowledge the past and move on. Sadly, we are stuck in the past and it's suffocating.
Instead of an apology, the council approved a statement of acknowledgement and condemnation of what happened at Bruce's Beach.
I found myself being angry when people don't see the magnitude of what this meant, because this was not just an injustice on Willa and Charles Bruce. This was an injustice on their entire family, generations of Bruces, who most certainly would have been millionaires if they had been allowed to hold on to this beachfront property.
By now, the action had moved to the County Hall of Administration and the state of California. Supervisor Hahn and her co-author, Supervisor Mitchell, had the support of their colleagues on the board as they declared their formal support of California's Senate Bill 796, a proposed bill that would make transferring the land from the county to those descendants legal.
The city of Manhattan Beach owes a debt to the Bruce family. The county of Los Angeles owes a debt to the Bruce family. And the state of California owes that debt as well.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The number of legislators, Republicans and Democrats, who pushed their button and wanted to stand up and speak about this vote on Bruce's Beach, they were saying things like, this was the most important vote I've ever done.
Aye. Senator moves a call.
3 months later, in a history-making move, Governor Gavin Newsom signed 796 into law at Bruce's Beach.
Hey, good to be here.
The law was used to steal this property 100 years ago, and the law today will give it back.
We're returning what was stolen, what was rightfully theirs. So this is what this day represents, returning a property, not a gift of public funds.
Well, as Governor of California, let me do what apparently Manhattan Beach is unwilling to do, and I want to apologize to the Bruce family.
I was so excited and thrilled to see Governor Newsom apologize to our family and take responsibility for something that was egregious to our family and really changed the course of our whole family's lives.
It's about economic empowerment.
Yes.
We're moving from symbolism to substance.
After the event, I just felt the need to just, in my own quiet solitude, kind of walk out to the beach. Because I needed to have a personal, private moment to stand on that beach and say, we've done it. We are returning the property to you.
A week later, the board voted unanimously to begin the process of transferring the land.
This is a process. It's a process that we are unfolding and figuring out as we go along. Very sticky policy issues.
The issues that we dealt with in this case ranged from genealogy, family law, tax law, corporate law, real estate law, litigation.
There is no playbook about how to return property that was inappropriately taken from a family over 100 years ago. There were real estate people involved and lawyers involved, and then we had to structure a transaction, something that would work for the Bruce's family, something that would work for the county, but that was also fair and appropriate in a way that really met the moment.
And that building sits over property that the family had, and then it would also sit on property that the county would retain. So it was sort of a complicated, well, gee, what do you do with this building? And that's when the idea of leasing back made sense.
That lease agreement is for 24 months. We are paying the family rent, and as a part of that agreement, the family has an option to require the county to buy the property from them for a set amount.
The land being returned to the legal heirs of the Bruce family has been appraised at a value of $21 million.
My goal was to make sure that we honored the Bruces and that we empowered them to make the decision that was right for their family.
But there was one final obstacle to overcome. A lawsuit filed by a local attorney argued that the property transfer would be a gift to the family, which is illegal under state law. The court disagreed.
The court didn't just say, it's okay for LA County to give this property back. The court went further.
It confirmed emphatically that combating racism is a public purpose.
When a government rights a wrong for the good of society, it fosters trust and faith from the people in their government.
The county's once-a-decade redistricting process added another wrinkle. Lines were redrawn, and now Supervisor Mitchell would represent Manhattan Beach.
And I am honored to be a member of this body at this moment of time to be able to lead and co-lead in this effort.
And at the June 28, 2022 meeting, it was her honor to sign the agreements authorizing the return of lots 8 and 9 of Peck's Manhattan Beach Tract Block 5.
Well done. Thank you. Yay. In December, the Redistricting Commission shuffled the lines and drew Manhattan Beach out of my district, but I'm so grateful that Manhattan Beach went to Supervisor Mitchell, who's been my partner in this effort since the very first motion. And when this is done, returning Bruce's Beach will be one of the most important things that I know I've been involved in.
And finally, on a July morning 93 years after the Bruces left Manhattan Beach, they were back.
And so today, we are here to honor that courageous vision, acknowledge the trials and tribulations that pursued, and in 2022, return the property to its rightful owners.
And so when you think about public displays of racist, discriminatory acts, it was important to me that we have a public display of righteousness.
This time it took more than a village. It took all of us here and all of us out there, standing toe-to-toe with racism and beating it down. Power to the right people.
In some way, God blessed us to have us all together this one time to celebrate and say yes to the young people. You can do this. It can be done. We did it. You can do it.
It took a lot of hands. After the advocacy and the effort to bring it to attention, then the actual sheer mechanics of doing this, you don't even want to know. Trust and believe.
This document, while it does not have the beauty of the scrolls that were just distributed, it's a bureaucratic document, but it is the official record that will show the transfer. It symbolizes for all of us that it is always the right time to do the right thing. And it is my honor to be here to present a certified copy to the family.
To be able to be a part, even a small part of something that is so important, it was humbling.
You know, to hear the support, the commitment of the county board and the state to make this happen, it was really amazing.
They told me nothing like this had ever been done before. They said the work ahead of us would be unprecedented. And today, we're sending a message to every government in this nation confronted with this same challenge. This work is no longer unprecedented.
The Bruce family has become worldwide, so everybody is part of the Bruce family, and they're all very excited. It's amazing how many hearts and minds we've touched with this amazing event that's happened.
And my thing is, like, you get a twinkle in your eye, there's a smile on your face, you know, there's a little bit of pride in your heart, and you know, that's what it feels like right now.
This was not something that I imagined was easy for LA County to do, but they showed real courage and political leadership. And my hope is now that other folks have seen that there will be followers.
It showed a very dark side of government and what government can do to people just because of their race. And so if this is the first step in trying to lead others to have a more just and equitable society for people of color, then Right on.
I have worked on a lot of groundbreaking initiatives that I believe have benefited thousands and thousands of people. The return of Bruce's Beach will probably forever be the top accomplishment in my career with the county. This was a beautiful moment born out of injustice.
It's a reflection of a moment in time, but it's also a reflection of a movement in time, right? A place that we've gotten to in our society where we are ready to overthrow the vestiges of race and racism.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on LA County Close Up.